All right, a lot of Eagles news to get into here on this Friday, December 27th. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Senior hanging out here with you. Hope everybody out there had a great Christmas, Hanukkah, and you're celebrating the holidays with your families. As for that Eagles news that we're diving into here today, a Jalen Hurts injury update going into Eagles-Cowboys on Sunday. Do not take this Dallas team lightly. They've won 4 of 5, and they're playing really good football right now. Philadelphia this week also signing a quarterback, which I think tells a story about Hurts' status going into this game. And then at the end of the show, a report from Jeff McLane of the Philadelphia Inquirer about an altercation between head coach Nick Sirianni, current Commanders tight end, and former Eagles tight end Zach Ertz after the game. Was there a little bit of a beef, a little bit of a verbal exchange? We'll talk about that here as well. Before we begin, did you get anything Eagles related for Christmas, Hanukkah, the holidays? If so, let me know down in the comment section. It's always a great time to get some new Eagles gear. Programming reminder, I'm in Lancaster right now for the holidays. Back in the studio on Sunday for Eagles Cowboys, so be sure to lock us in, hit that subscribe button, and join us for our watch party. And of course, go Birds. As for the latest Jalen Hurts injury news here, to get you caught up, suffered that concussion on the second drive of the game against Washington in that Philadelphia loss last Sunday. On the estimated injury report on Wednesday, he was a non-participant. So the Eagles didn't practice on Christmas. Coaches were still in the building. And an estimated injury report is if the Eagles were to practice, Hurts would have been a non-participant. And then the Eagles were on the practice field on the 26th. And on the Thursday practice report, he was a non-participant, which means he is still in concussion protocol. And a couple of reports over the last 24 hours or so. I know a lot of you have been busy with your family, me as well. Adam Schefter had said on the Pat McAfee show, don't think that Hurts is going to be able to play. Ian Rapoport, NFL Network, said Hurts is unlikely to play. And let's just talk about the injury, his availability, what it means for Philadelphia. Of course, it would be great for Hurts to get back out there following how well he played against Pittsburgh in throwing the football. That was his best all-around passing performance, I think, when you dig into the tape. And when you think about how well he played against the quality of opponent in Pittsburgh, going back to the 2022 season. And then with how that game started against Washington, on the 2 drives that the Eagles had with Hurts as the team's quarterback, they went right down the field, and they were able to score touchdowns on both of those drives. Now, he got hurt on that second drive. Kenny Pickett came in. He hit A.J. Brown on that in route, but the Eagles were humming in that game, working off of the important momentum that they were able to build the week prior against Pittsburgh. And even though Philadelphia wasn't really throwing the ball all that much against Washington early with Hurts in the game, he was making plays with his legs. The run game was working. And then he goes out, and the Commanders completely changed their defensive strategy after that Saquon Barkley 68-yard touchdown where he went untouched. Great blocks from Mekhi Becton and C.J. Uzomah on the pool. Washington said, look, we're not going to let Saquon Barkley beat us. He had 101 rushing yards in that first quarter. We're going to beg Kenny Pickett to throw it. We're going to crash the box, load the line of scrimmage in between the tackles, have some guys coming in off the edge, and we're going to go all in on trying to stop Saquon Barkley. And we beg Kenny Pickett to throw it. Did Pickett make some good throws? Did he make some good plays in that game? For sure. But the Eagles' running game suffered without Hurts because they didn't buy Pickett as a runner. And frankly, I think that he can do a better job if he does start this game on Sunday of keeping the defense honest, keeping it on some of those RPOs. I've talked about it here on the show. I think that Pickett has some giddy up and he has some decent mobility. Saquon Barkley said that yesterday as well. And so if he does play in this game, he's going to have to keep the defense thinking a little bit that he can hurt them by keeping it on some of these RPOs because he's got to make things a little bit easier for Saquon Barkley. And so, yeah, it'd be great for Hurts to be back out there following how well he played against the Steelers, how well the offense was moving the football against Washington. But one, you don't want to mess around with a concussion. Two, why play him if the risk outweighs the reward? The Eagles do still have an opportunity to get the number 1 seed. They're going to need some help from Minnesota as well as Detroit, but they're pretty much locked into the 2 seed, and they have the New York Giants, the worst team in football, coming to the link in week 18. And so if Hurts is back on the field, then you match yourselves up against an inferior opponent. You're able to knock off some rust if there is some rust there to get primed and ready for the playoffs. And that's probably the best time for Hurts to come back in the ramp up to the postseason. Why put him out there against Dallas if he's not ready, obviously, to risk him getting injured again? You don't want to mess around with a head injury, and you should still be able to win this football game against the Cowboys. I think Mike McCarthy's done a hell of a job. You know, the Cowboys are a botched block punt away from being winners of 5 consecutive games. They're really playing well on both sides of the football, but so is Philadelphia. They've won 10 of their last 11, and last week was their first loss going all the way back to that Buccaneers defeat in September. So if Hurts doesn't play, I think the Eagles can still win this football game. I wouldn't put him out there. And plus, as we know, the NFL is very strict with concussion protocol. And as of Thursday, early Friday, Hurts has not cleared concussion protocol. You also think about the Eagles' actions, right? There's that saying, a person's actions speak louder than words. Philadelphia signed Ian Book as quarterback insurance this week, which I think points to them going with Kenny Pickett to be QB1. He said that he's fine with the rib injury. Tanner McKee will be QB2. Frankly, I'd love to see what he's able to do. Kind of a Nick Foles-light type of player. And then Ian Book is the emergency quarterback. He was with Philadelphia in 2022. Familiarity with the organization. Played at Notre Dame. Shout out to the college football playoff. Not a really good thrower, but decent mobility. And again, kind of understands what Philadelphia likes to do on the offensive side of the football. That Kenny Pickett injury update said he's fine. I want to see some mobility from him on throws, both with Kellen Moore getting him out on some rollouts, but as I mentioned a little bit earlier, tuck it and run it a little bit. I know he's got the rib injury, but if the defense isn't buying him as a runner and not buying him or afraid of him as a thrower, all they're going to do is try to stop Saquon Barkley throughout the course of the ball game. So, yeah, that's some thoughts right there on Hurts, Pickett, Tanner McKee, Philadelphia signing Ian Book. Also, the Eagles getting a pretty big break in this game. CeeDee Lamb, one of the top wide receivers in the game, that goes without saying. The Cowboys are just shutting him down for the rest of the year. He's had this nagging shoulder injury over the last couple of weeks. If you watched the Cowboys game against the Buccaneers last week in primetime, you saw that he made some really good plays, but clearly that shoulder isn't right. They just signed him to that massive deal, about $34 million per season, and they just want to shut him down for the rest of the year to not further injure that shoulder. And so Cooper Rush will be without his number one wide receiver. Coming up next, Nick Sirianni, Zach Ertz beef. I have a lot of thoughts on that. Stay tuned for it. Keep hanging out. But first, today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, sponsored by our friends at Game Time. It's cold in Philadelphia. I'm in Pennsylvania, Lancaster right now. It's chilly. It's about 25 degrees right now. But there's nothing like some December football when the playoffs are approaching. And it's never too late to get a holiday gift for somebody who you really care about. So, thanks to our friends at Game Time, you can do that. You can get tickets to an Eagles game, concert, comedy show, theater event, Sixers game, a future Phillies game. And here's the ultimate flex. You download the Game Time app. You create an account. You use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS. You get $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. But how about this? You get tickets for somebody who you care about, and they're elated with the gift. But then they end up taking you to the game. That's the ultimate flex right there. You do something nice for somebody else, and then they actually bring you to the game. Plenty of tickets available for Eagles Cowboys at Lincoln Financial Field. I know a bunch of people who are going to that game. Again, I'll be in the Chat Sports studios for our watch party. But if you want to go to that game, tickets available thanks to our friends at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Put that link in the comment section and in the show notes here on today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, code CHATSPORTS and get $20 off. All right, kind of the talk of Philadelphia right now, and there's always drama in the city of brotherly love, especially around this football team, pertains to this supposed beef between Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni and the best tight end in the history of this organization, and Zach Ertz. Jeff McLane of the Philadelphia Inquirer reported on Thursday, Merry Christmas, that the two had to be separated after the game by Eagles chief security officer Dom DeSandro. According to sources close to the incident, here's what really happened. Ertz went to shake Sirianni's hand, and he could tell the coach was agitated, so instead he gave him a high five. Sirianni didn't like the intensity of Hurts's hand slap and mocked him because he only had one catch and told him he essentially did nothing to contribute to the Commanders' win. Hurts took exception and got in Sirianni's face, but the coach's escort, as always, Dom DeSandro, jumped in, held Ertz back, and ushered a defeated Sirianni to the tunnel. Sirianni later called Ertz and apologized over a Zoom conference call. As we know, Nick Sirianni can be very emotional, but here's my take on this. For a reporter who's such an old school big J like Jeff McLane, it's actually kind of wild that he went through with this reporting as the Eagles are getting ready to ramp up for the playoffs. They have a golden opportunity to chase their second Lombardi trophy. And he's reporting that Nick Sirianni got in Zach Ertz's face. Thankfully here, in this social media era, and in 2024 in general, where we're under surveillance almost all the time and cameras are always rolling, there was video that came out about this incident. And it was so exaggerated and blown out of proportion. Sirianni did not get in Zach Ertz's face. There was no beef. There was no fight. Now, Ertz, as Sirianni was walking to center field to shake Dan Quinn's hand, did approach Sirianni. Sirianni just kind of kept walking, shook Quinn's hand, dapped him up, said congratulations, which is what you should do. And there was nothing really there. Then there's other video of after the handshake that Ertz went back up to Sirianni, and there you can kind of see that Ertz is a little bit frustrated or didn't like what Sirianni had to say, but Sirianni has like a smile on his face, and he kind of kept walking, and I don't think it was Dom DeSandro being like, oh my gosh, fight, we have to separate these two. He just kind of got in between Ertz and Sirianni. So I kind of think this is a little bit of a nothing burger, and I respect McLane. I think he's one of the top Eagles reporters out there. I know the organization takes exception to some things that he reports, and Fletcher Cox basically said after the year last year, like, get out of my face. He doesn't really like him, and McLane is that old school Big J where he's a journalist by the book, but this is the downside, I think, of Philadelphia media. They too often try to be the story, and sometimes they run with these stories where there's not really anything going on, anything of substance. Ertz was asked about it. He even said it was blown out of proportion. They talked after the fact, and it's all good, yet you're stirring up unwanted, unneeded drama as the Eagles are trying to go out there and chase a Super Bowl. So always something in Philadelphia. Wanted to pass along some thoughts on that because it's kind of the talk of the fan base and the talk of the town. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Give me a real one if you're still rocking with me here on the show. Don't forget to hit that sub button, and I'll see you on Sunday for Eagles Cowboys.